Hey Miles,
Hi, Janice.
is my background right? Do I have CVTA
Yes,
back? It is right.
yes,
Okay.
it looks good.
I can never tell if I need to flip it the other way. All right, thank you. So Chet said he's going to try to join, but he's out, so he's not going to be able to take any notes or anything.
Yesterday it was
Hey
75.
Janice, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Like we may have a quorum. Welcome everyone to the July 8th CVTA Technical Advisory Committee meeting. I call this meeting to get started. If we could have a roll call and certification of a quorum, Ms. Scott.
Yes, ma'am. Town of Ashland, Miss Amos.
Here.
Charles City County, Miss Adams. Mr. Mitchell. Chesterfield County, Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Miss Walker.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Goyne.
Here.
Mr. Coleman. Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez.
Here.
Mr. Hart. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that Mr. Vadunez?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hardman. Henrico County, Mr. Ewer. Miss Smidler.
Here.
New Kent County, Miss Inman.
Here.
Miss Leduc. Powhatan County, Mr. Shardine. City of Richmond, Chair Clark.
Here.
GRTC, Mr. Adarqua. Miss Robinson. DRPT, Miss Dubinsky.
Here.
Mr. Wagner. CVTA, Mr. Parsons.
Here.
VDOT, Mr. Totten. Mr. Riblet. Miss McAdory. Plan RVA, Mr. Bushing.
Here.
RMTA, Miss Dean. And Virginia Port Authority, Miss Nelson. That concludes the roll call for attendance. We do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Are there any amendments to our meeting's agenda? Consideration of amendments to the meeting agenda.
Madam Chair, this is Chad. I just wanted to note that Mr. Mitchell is in the attendee room, but has declined to join. So he is here. He's just not able to participate. We'll keep trying.
Thank you. Can everyone please mute their lines? All right. So moving to item 4, approval of June 8th CVTA TAC meeting minutes. Request for an action. Morning.
This is
Sarah.
Nora. I move approval of the meeting minutes.
Thanks, Nora.
I'll second.
Thanks, Austin. That's been moved in second. Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Perfect. That motion is approved. We are item 5, open public comment period. Chet, have we received any, or Ms. Scott, from the public regarding any comments for this meeting?
No comments.
Okay, awesome. All right, moving on to the TAC chairs report. Just quickly ahead of the let's see, for coming up this month, the city will do its fall line trail at Bryan Park groundbreaking, and I will pass that date on to everyone, but just wanted to get that out there. And namely, just really excited to go to the next item. And so that concludes my report. The election of the FY25 CVTA TAC chair and vice chair. It's that time again that we select our leadership, and I'll accept a motion for nominations of chair and vice chair. Barb, do you want to, well, let's start discussion. You want to start any discussion? Anyone have any discussion? I know only thing I had was that I know because we hadn't had the full authority select theirs, and they won't be doing theirs until August. I didn't know how we wanted to align those to those selected positions was all that I had to add. But if we were, I do think just based on the bylaws, this is the meeting that TAC would do it. But again, I didn't know if there was room for August to look at that consideration, but if not, if we have nominations, let's hear them, please. Not everyone speak.
We could defer.
Yeah.
It seems, you know,
Okay. Thanks for that consideration. I just, I didn't know how we wanted, again, I think it would be good if the TAC could align with that. Just, you're gonna be all in, you might as well be all in at the same time, as you're prepping your individual authority members and any roles that they may have. Because this was an action item, Barb, did you propose a motion to defer this item until the August meeting?
yes, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. I guess it's a voice vote for that motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, so we will move on to item 8. Let's see, Fall Line Trail. Mr. Parsons is going to take this item. As we can recall at our previous meeting, we talked about the 7.5 million that was awarded in the Commonwealth budget from the Virginia General Assembly. And Mr. Parsons talked with at least the chair and the vice chair on this item, and he was going to talk about any recommendations that the TAC would like to come up with today. Mr. Parsons.
Yeah, thank you. So I put a staff report in the agenda, and it is on page 7. So this kind of goes through the background of what's happened with the Commonwealth of Virginia budget that was approved in May. Sports backers first reported this. The General Assembly dedicated 7.5 million to the Fall Line Trail in its final budget, and those funds are appropriated from undesignated resources in the State Trails Office. This is the first time that a Richmond area trail has been designated through the General Assembly to receive funds from this source. So we're very excited about that. And I've had the opportunity since the announcement was made to have further conversations with both VDOT and our CTB member, Mr. Davis, and have received information from both of those sources that the state doesn't have a specific use designated for those funds. It's open to recommendations from the CVTA, and I feel like if we can keep some momentum going, and if the TAC is able today to make a recommendation or set of recommendations for consideration at the August meeting, that the CTB would very much appreciate guidance from the CVTA in terms of where that 7.5 million would go. So what I did in the staff report was to outline some possible places to designate those funds, and this is developed with the chair and vice chair in some conversations that we've had about remaining needs for the Fall Line, as both on the design and construction side as well as the wayfinding. So you have essentially 4 items in the outline there in the staff report. The first is to carve out an amount of funds that would fully cover the installation cost of the wayfinding plan. And this was developed in coordination with Ms. Brenner. We think that about 1.1 million would cover all of the wayfinding that has been set out in the plan. The second item is to establish a design retainer for AB Design to continue to assist localities with Fall Line wayfinding capital updates as more sections are brought online. And the estimated cost for this retainer is about 15,000, and that's based on what has been spent in those focused areas for the development of the plan to this date. The third item is to allocate funds to a segment of the fall line that has not entered into development or has a balance remaining. And we've kind of picked out 4 possible destinations based on the amount of funding available and the need. So the first would be the Fall Line Trail, Kanawha Plaza. And then the second one would be the Route 1 Food Line to Falling Creek Wayside. The third was the remaining funds on the Bryant Park section. And then the final will be leveraging, using these funds, putting towards leveraging for some type of smart scale application candidate project. That could be the Route 1, Walmsley Boulevard to Falling Creek Avenue. And then to finally, this is kind of more on the outside in terms of possibilities, because there's some other ways that this might be funded, but applying some funds to a grade separated intersection at Route 10 in Chesterfield as an add-on to the Design Build 2 scoping that is going on right now. The timing of this option may be an issue based on the bid schedule and when that's supposed to be released. So what I am asking TAC to do today is to consider these or other possible uses and make a recommendation to the full authority to approve a letter to the Commonwealth Transportation Board outlining whatever our recommendation is for allocation of that $7.5 million in fall line funds from the 2020-24 General Assembly. Madam Chair, that's, I think, a quick summary. I'd be happy to take any questions or continue the conversation.
Thank you. I see Barb's hand up, and I'll just ask this question first. Barb, do we know the grade separation estimate for the Route 10? No. Okay. Barb?
I was wondering, those 4 projects under 3, I know about D and I know about B. So is the Kanawha Plaza and the Bryant Park, are those both existing projects, and these are just funding amounts to close a shortfall, address a shortfall?
No, that's just the first one is the segment cost for the Kanawha Plaza trailhead. So it's
Oh, a
VDOT's
trailhead.
estimate, its estimate is $4.5 million per the VDOT's estimate. It's just an unfunded segment within the city of Richmond.
Okay.
And then the Fall Line Bryant Park, I put that on there. There was some like internal stuff that wanted to happen, but based on the inflation and the estimate that Chet had provided, it said that it was going to be short potentially 760,000, meaning like when it potentially gets to construction. And so I put that in there as well, because if it becomes a need, we're trying very hard to come in on budget. But again, the estimate provided by the CVTA was a little bit higher, so I just included that ask in there.
Okay. I did listen to the last meeting. I wasn't involved. I was not at that last meeting, but it seemed like was some consensus or support for setting aside 1.1 or setting aside some amount of money for the wayfinding. And that 15,000, I guess, for A, B design to be
So first
available.
check point of concurrence. Do we all concur that that would be a great line item to include in this letter to the CTB?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Sharon with Enrico, yes.
Thank you. Because I just have a tab here. So just with the unknown Chesterfield amount, the total request is 22.9 million. But it doesn't seem that bad. It's, of course, is that big 13.6, which is more than the initial ask anyway. So I could literally lower that. So without that big one in there, the total ask comes to 9.3 million, almost 9.4. So of that, we have agreed that 1.1 of the 7.5 will go to the wayfinding. Barb, did you have more? And then I'll go to Amy.
Yeah, I did. So in item 3, 2 of the projects are existing projects that have funding shortfalls. And to me, that's a priority. I think leveraging and smart scale, it's probably a loser project from what we've been told with the new changes to smart scale. So, and then number 4 that Chet was explaining, there may be other options or the timing of this is not great. So I'm suggesting as our next priorities that we think about doing 3B and 3C. And then see where we are.
I have a question on 3B. Is that, can you give me that in reference to VDOT's design 1 and 2?
This is a project that the county is administering. So it's on a section of Route 1 just south of Chippenham. Well, actually, it spans Chippenham Parkway. It goes from the Food Lion down to what we call the Falling Creek Wayside. We've got folks that are walking up and down Route 1 without a facility. This is building it in the median across the interchange.
So what, I'm just trying to get clear, like which segment of this, of the fall line is that?
Like letters,
Yeah, numbers and letters would work.
I can look that up, but it'll take me a bit, so
Okay,
keep discussing on
can
this
I go to
stuff.
Amy while you look that up?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Madam Chair. So just a quick question. What is the total cost for the wayfinding plan? I don't remember the number. Did we receive a total cost or an estimate?
For the actual fabrication and construction of the signage and installation.
Yeah, what they
Yeah.
had recommended.
The estimate right now is about $875, something like that. But it does not include all of the possible destinations potentially in Richmond and Chesterfield, the remaining sections. We know, I mean, as we've had these discussions, Gladys is focused on Henrico, Hanover, and the southern part to
So
make sure
this
all
one-
that was locked in. So we
this one
we
point-
put a little bit of a multiplier in there to make sure that there was enough coverage for everybody.
Okay, so this 1.1 basically covers the segments that are actively underway, basically, or close to
It
being
sh-
underway.
It should cover the entire 43 miles.
Oh, the entire thing. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay. And then I guess Barb, for clarification, were you saying, you're recommending 1, 2, and then 3, B and C, and then what would happen to the Kanawha Plaza? I mean, you wouldn't be able to fund that.
Probably not fully. So I was going step by step. So wayfinding, and then consider existing projects with shortfalls,
Right.
and then decide what to do with the remainder.
Mhm.
So Jerona, the sections are 3C-6 plus 3D.
I'm sorry, 3C-6 and 3D.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that segment connects to other segments that are already funded.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure, but you said it's an existing project. Is it a new project? Is it an unfunded segment of the fall line? And it's just tied to
funded and
another
it has a
project?
funding shortfall, so it's getting ready to go into right of way. And it's got a shortfall.
Okay, and you all were just gonna administer that segment yourselves, which was funded, but now it's coming up with a shortfall of 3 million.
Right.
Okay. And who provided the 3 million shortfall? Is that your people?
Yeah, it's based on our project manager's current estimates.
Because like I said, I know for Bryant Park, I just trying to get that tied in. So Chet, are you tracking this segment as well?
Sorry, Brian Park.
No. Sorry, I was about to talk about Bryant Park, but I'm still talking about 3C and 3D.
Yeah, I mean, we're tracking it with the best information we have. It's moved from, I mean, VDOT has given us kind of a point in time escalation with inflation and everything, and then Miles is continuing to, you know, update that as much as possible once we have new information.
I guess my question is, and then I'll move off of this. So you know how you provided Richmond with like the new estimates or any shortfall, and it could be for everybody, and I just can't recall the exact document. But you could see the project shortfall in a programming type of document. And I'm just trying to ensure that that 3 million shows up on that shortfall as we apply these dollars, as we attempt to apply those.
Yes, we are tracking and updating that.
Miles, you have anything to add?
Sure, if I can jump in, that was last updated before the latest 6-year program updates. So that's going to be another round of, it's a constantly updating that document. So we're gonna have to update it again now that we have the finalized FY25 plan.
Okay, so then just in the same, I could update the Bryan Park segment back down to the 3 million that we're gonna make it. Because I was aligning my request with that document. I just wanna make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I guess part of my recommendation then would be, everybody's already concurred on one, I guess almost concurred on two. Barb has brought up a good plan for, cost overage in the requests that were submitted. I would still yield to A, and yield my 760 request from Bryan Park to the remaining dollar amounts to come to 7.5 million. If I have any support on that, let me get the number in front of me.
Hey, Dorona,
Yes, ma'am.
another way we could do it is sort of prorate for Kanawha, the Route 1, Falling Creek Wayside, and the Bryan Park with the remaining money. Take the 1.1 and the 15,000 off, and then prorate how much goes to each of those other projects based on the available money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so let me see.
I think that would give you 3.5 on Kanawha and 2.3 on the UPC project with the shortfall, and then 0.6 on Bryan Park.
.6.
So it would mean $1 million short on Kanawha if you had another funding source to make that up.
Let me see. Anyone? Chet has his hand up. Sorry, Chet. Playing with this.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, I think that based on the source of the funding, it's coming from General Assembly. We want to show that their money's going to good use. I think anything we could do with this that would show almost as immediate progress as possible would be great, and would show the dividends. So maybe we would see future funds of this type as well. So if it is partial funding for a section like a Kanawha Plaza, if it could get us to, a certain threshold, certain milestone, that we could then turn around and say, look, your money has gone to immediate use. It's really showing dividends, and we're thankful for it. That would be, I didn't hear that directly, but I think that would be something that would be appreciated.
Yeah, and I agree. Even if a small amount to the Bryan Park, and they can catch that wagon while it's going, that would be extra fast. And then Barb's section would follow up. I have Austin and then Amy.
Thank you. I guess based on that, my thoughts are, do you fully fund 3B and C and then put just north of, it'd be 2.6 and change on Kanawha. So you're a little over the million that Barb mentioned earlier, but you fully fund 2 projects, and talking about the immediate use of the funds being put to good use, and then we kind of piece together the Kanawha. But again, it's a little more, it's about another $1 million that you would need versus what Barb was saying, but it does fully fund the other 2 options.
Thank you, Austin. Amy?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Well, along those lines, so is this 760, is that, I mean, remind me of where you are on the Bryan Park. You've already broken ground, haven't you? So is this cost estimate, where are you with Bryan Park? I can't remember.
Yeah, so Bryan Park, we are starting construction like the end of this summer. So we're doing design build.
Okay, right.
And then we'll start this summer. So it's really just to ensure, again, this was based on the inflation, which I think had a little bit of potentially 25 and 26 in there. So I think that I can lower my request for Bryan Park, and I'm just trying to figure out what I could lower it to keep as close to whole as I can for Kanawha Plaza. Is where I am looking right now to
Okay.
that's what I would prefer.
Because I mean, if the 760 is kind of a guesstimate, you don't really know if you're going to need it. I'm sort of thinking similar to what Chet is saying is, or Austin was saying, that, you know, we really need to show progress and fully funding projects. So if you're just trying to put a cushion on because you're not sure, then I would say, you know, I would lean towards allocating funding to Kanawha Plaza if you think that that's truly, if that's the real number and you can get it built for that.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
And then letting Barb fund her, you know, Route 1, because that's a real need. I mean, clearly that's been a need for a long, long time.
yeah. So right now, let me see. Barb has her hand up.
Want me to jump in real quick?
Yeah, let me see. I was just gonna quickly. I don't know. I think Janice has. Oh, I can share. Hold on. It's literally just chicken scratch. So those are the dollar amounts. That was just an old one. Sorry for the spelling.
I don't
So
think
that's
we don't see it.
Oh, sorry, y'all. Sorry, hold on. Oh, I haven't shared yet. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So that's the wayfinding. That's the AB design extra. That would be Kanawha Plaza. That would be the B Chesterfield, and then this would be what I would recommend for Bryan Park, which of course I could up this by like what 20.
25.
Yeah, that's gonna give me. Sorry. There we go. Bart.
I did, these are all best guesses, right? We keep saying to fully fund, but everyone is still like the project I've been talking about, the Wayside, that's going into right of way. Right of way is a wild card. But we've built the estimate with a lot of contingency in it. And that's why we're 3 million over. But until bids come in, until you're done with right of way, it's all still a guess. So for each and every project. So saying it's fully funded, we think it is, but
And I know for the city, we have, because of control and then public engagement, if like Kanawha Plaza is another facility that the city controls, so as well as with Bryan Park. So we have been successful with Bryan Park in moving that because of those factors. And some of the work that's being prepped for Kanawha Plaza, I think that this would fit in very well to make sure that the fall line could align. But yeah, but so again, with the Bryan Park, I was more going off of the estimate of Plan RVAs and the VDOT kind of escalation versus again that my project people have told me we're 760,000 short.
Madam Chair, I may have a solution.
Yes, sir.
I think Sarah Ridge just joined us, but I
Oh, good.
was getting a message from Liz that wayfinding is not an eligible use.
Oh,
So that might give us this 1.1 million so that those other projects can be whole. It's not what we wanted to hear, but
Well,
Sarah
maybe
may
we
be able
can-
to, Sarah may be able to speak to that.
Yeah, and can we talk to the finance committee then? Or like, I think we need, for Henrico's sake and those others, we need that wayfinding. And maybe we say, hey, for this free 7.5 million, we need 1.1 million of CVTA money for wayfinding. I mean, that's like a typical, match, being that it's not an eligible under this money, but it is eligible from the authority. Because I just feel like wayfinding is a natural next step, and so many people are depending on that. I think it's going to drop the ball if we don't request or find some kind of money for it.
I think, I mean, from the staff side, I think that's a reasonable discussion to have with finance, especially if it's a request coming from the TAC. I think we still need to put together a letter for the
Oh, no,
7.5,
we're gonna get the
and then we'll
letter.
do
We're
this
gonna have this
separately.
content in 5
Yeah.
seconds. Now that
Okay.
you've taken off. So if we can't use, so can the AB Designs 15,000 be in there?
No.
Oh, wow. All right, so 4, 5. All right, so that would fully fund then the Kanawha Plaza, the Route 10 overage, and about 85,000, it looks like.
It's not
quite.
Route 10, it's Route 1.
I'm sorry, Route 1. I don't know why I have Route 10 in my head.
There's the
And then
other
there's-
one, that's the Route 10 underpass.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, so it would leave space for only those 2 projects.
So I guess I'll just ask a quick question. So is there anything else? I mean, that's needing funding? I mean, these are the only 2 things that are really needed and fully funded outside of the wayfinding.
We have a
There,
gap
there
on
are
Route.
other, yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, we
So-
have a 2-mile gap on Route 1, but it's too big.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
and we have the
right
one that we
size for this
shared.
pot of money.
We had this segment that we share with Richmond and Henrico, we thought would be good, but it's a high amount, and even with leveraging, the whole 7.5, it still wouldn't make a good smart scale, which is 2 years from now, and that really isn't using the intent of the dollars. So again, we were specifically looking at unfunded segments and unmet needs, as we saw with the wayfinding. So to Amy's question, do any of our other fall line trail localities have any additional need that would be applicable to these dollars?
This is Nora. We don't. We just need the wayfinding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is Sharon. Not that I know of. We're
Yeah, I'm
moving
not,
along, so
holding
just the
anybody.
wayfinding.
Chet.
I was just gonna say, I mean, if, as long as you're confident about Bryant Park, then it kind of, it's a natural fit to just do 3A and B. That'll get you 7.5.
Yeah, I'm with that. I can cover anything for Bryant Park. All right, so, but we want, so we will get this item. Let me get this item. But we also want to make, from the TAC, do we want to make a motion in a second about the 1.5 ask from the authority? I don't know how many more opportunities we're gonna have, but I think we should put the ask in. Amy?
Yeah, so I guess, yes, there needs to be an ask, but I don't know that positioning it as leveraging this money is
The best
necessarily
way.
a prudent thing to do, right? So this is a separate pot of money that it simply isn't eligible. So now to try to come in and sort of say, oh, now we're going to leverage 1.1 for this. I just think that's pushing it a little bit, but certainly having the conversation with the finance committee, but in terms of making a motion of where that money is going to come from, right? I would want to understand better where that $1.1 million would come from. Because as I understand it right now, Chet, please correct me if I'm wrong, we're pretty much fully allocated out for the next foreseeable future, unless somebody deallocates some funding. Am I right about that or no?
Yeah, I think we can look at it. I mean, 1.1 isn't in the
Don't
big
we have that
picture
much in
huge.
interest, Chet? I mean,
think-
times a
I-
lot.
Yeah,
How
I
are
think
we-
between now and Wednesday, Miles and I can come up with maybe an option or two. Madam Chair, I'd suggest maybe it's because the finance is in 2 days. This is just part of the TAC report, and we'll like frame it that way. But hopefully we'll be able to come to the meeting with some ideas on, some possible sources for where that funding could come from.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
when I said the leveraging, it's really just looking at the needs of the localities and the Fall Line Trail. And we've been provided another 7.5 million that the authority did not have to divvy up, which is good. But because it is so important to the region, we think that them providing the 1.1 would be something we're interested in, because we've kind of exhausted some of our sources of funding, and their funding is flexible. So it would be an ask for that consideration, and then Chet could follow up on where that might be found in lieu of programming through 31 and any available dollars that the authority has at its discretion. Barb?
Yeah, I think it would be important to let the authority know or finance know that there was general consensus and support for, as a top priority, to use it for wayfinding, but then we found out that that's not eligible.
Right.
And so we're requesting the authority look at options, which I think there's one regional option to fund wayfinding.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to frame it.
Thank you, everyone. Noted. All right, so I have that as part of the TAC report. So for now, let me bring it back to this. Let me get my agenda back in.
Can I ask one more quick question?
Sure,
Sorry.
Amy.
So in terms of schedule, I'm sure that the General Assembly is going to want to understand, how quickly these funds are going to, be utilized, right? That we're not just going to tag them on to projects that are going to take, 10 years or 5 years, whatever, but do we have a reasonable schedule so that we can show meaningful progress to the General Assembly? And then since these monies have gone to VDOT, right? So
What do you mean?
then, well, these funds have gone to the CTB, right? To VDOT. I mean, they've really been programmed to VDOT, correct? Not to CVTA. CVTA has come in.
They haven't gone anywhere yet. That's
Okay.
part of what we're trying to request.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I still think they're going to want to see that there's going to be progress. They're not just, putting money on projects and we don't have a good schedule for completion.
So the Route 1 Falling Creek Wayside Food Line project, that's scheduled to go to construction next year.
Okay, so see, that's good. And you're on target for that. What about Kanoa Plaza?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to move this one. I mean, it went from zero funding to funded, Amy, overnight. I mean, literally from this meeting. And so again, we probably we're going to take the same approach with the design build around the plaza, and it could have like an FY26 construction, if not sooner.
Okay. I think if you guys can make that commitment and put that in the request.
I think it would look good. Yep.
Mhm.
All right, so the requested action is a motion to recommend to the CVTA approval of a letter to the Commonwealth Transportation Board outlining recommendations for allocation. And right before I finish this, is this to the Finance Committee or to the full body chat?
The
The
thought
motion
was
is-
it would go to the full body. I mean, I think this is obviously something we would want the finance committee to be aware of, but
Oh, because it's not time enough to go on their agenda. Okay, so
right.
I'll make sure that this motion is again in that in the tag too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, so I haven't finished reading it and Barb has a question, so there's no motion on the floor. Barb?
I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, good, perfect, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we submit a draft letter for the authority's consideration for submittal, suggesting that the 7.5 be allocated to the Kanawha Plaza Trailhead and the Route 1 Food Line to Falling Creek Wayside UPC blah, 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 projects. 4.5 to the Kanawha Plaza, 3 million to the Route 1 project.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Inman. We're dealing with some dollars, so let's do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Scott.
All right, let's see. Miss Amos.
Aye.
Vice Chair Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Goyne,
Aye.
Mr. Vadunez,
Aye.
Ms. Smidler,
Aye.
Miss Inman,
Aye.
and Chair Clark.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. On to the next item, Mr. Parsons, the wayfinding plan recommendations.
Yes, thank you. So this is item 8B in the agenda packet. This is something that is not foreign to any of you, but we are now ready to propose a recommendation from the TAC for approval of the wayfinding plan. In the agenda, you have all hopefully had time to review all of the materials. If you follow the link in the agenda packet to the wayfinding plan, there are 3 draft documents: the trail destinations, the trail programming, and the trail standards, as well as 4 additional maps. Those are all linked in the packet. And essentially we are putting a stamp on the wayfinding plan as of the end of June 2024 to now move the plan forward for adoption by the full authority, so that it can be used to move, the segments forward, the required hardware, the fabrication, the installation, all of the things that are components of the wayfinding plan. We do have some additional work that needs to be done, and the Fall Line Work Group is well aware of that and has been working closer with AB Design to continue to refine those needs. That's part of why that 15,000 was included in the possible uses for the 7.5 in the last agenda item, so that we can make sure that those remaining sections are designed ready to go. So we will figure that out, and but we wanted to have the wayfinding plan as a point in time document, so that we can have that as a resource for everyone who is now bringing sections online and segments are ready to go. So the action requested today is for a motion to recommend that the full authority approve the wayfinding plan, and we will be able to then move forward and continue to implement those segments as they're ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I do have a quick question. The authority members have told us a number of times that they don't want to manage the Fall Line Trail. So I just want to make sure that when we are taking this to them, we don't make them feel that way. And how do you, what's our game plan on, because it's just as soon as you read the motion, of course, and it's like for the authority to approve it, the authority approving it guides any management people in the future? Like why are they doing this and not Sharon?
So one, and Chet can probably answer this, but I thought one thing that helped me when I was reviewing these documents, there was a disclaimer on there that said this drawing represents design intent only. So, it's not perfect. Like Chet said, there's still work to be done. People are probably going to still see some minor things that need to be refined. So I thought that disclaimer on the documents was helpful that says these drawings represent design intent only. So that was my thought, but I'll let Chet add in anything more for others.
Yeah, I thought that was a great point, Sharon. And I think you're right, Madam Chair, we do need to separate this from management. But what this wayfinding plan does is give the practitioners, the members of the CVTA, the information that is necessary so that we have a consistent package of signage and all the different components that are in the wayfinding plan, so that when Sharon is ready to take something out, it's the same look and feel as when Joe is ready to put something in the field. It really doesn't, I don't equate that to management. I equate that to groundbreaking and getting the trail ready to go for the first time. I think management is when you're going to have to come back and look at, replacement down the line or additional needs to sign things. But again, I'm not doing this every day. You all are. So I'd welcome any other comments.
Ms. Inman?
Yeah, I was just thinking to your point on that, maybe the motion could read that the authority adoption of the Fall Line wayfinding plan as presented and to be used by individual localities. Just so it's clear. I mean, I think it's appropriate that the authority take action since they funded the development of the wayfinding plan. So they need to acknowledge that, but maybe as part of that motion, it can also say that it's to be used, reference use by localities as they're implementing their segment. Right?
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Smith?
Or we could say, except the wayfinding plan is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah, so accepting it as complete, and I like what a little bit with like what Sharon was saying with the disclaimer. So I had written like design intent only. I don't know, based on the technical review of the wayfinding plan by TAC and locality members. So that's why when Amy said hers, I'm like, yeah, that's what I think is the key thing, is that we technically went through it for the authority, based on them paying for it. And the TAC has approved it and recommending to accept that approval to be used by all the localities. But I don't, Chet, I know, don't ask me to repeat it because Barb.
Although sorry.
Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, well, that might kind of contradict what you're asking for in terms of having the authority, if you're, using that logic, to pay for the wayfinding, right? So if now we're saying, okay, we have the wayfinding plan to be used by localities, and then we come back behind it and say, hey, CVTA, fund the wayfinding, at 1.1 million. So, we're kind of saying two different things. If you're wanting CVTA to take ownership of the wayfinding, then they need to take ownership, right? You can't, then we should just say, this is CVTA's, sort of overall recommendation to fund wayfinding that's consistent throughout the trail and, reflective of individual localities, right? But, it's maintaining that same sort of theme and and ease of use in navigating the trail, which is a regional thing, right? So to get to the logic of why CVTA would fund the wayfinding, I would think that this would maybe help to support that
Very good.
argument.
Very good. Chet?
Yeah, I think Amy's got the right thought there. I mean, it's the comprehensive planning side of me is that, you know, if we accept the plan, who's the owner? If we adopt the plan at the CVTA, it's their plan. So that gives that, you know, that skin in the game of then furthering with possibly investing the 1.1 down the line to make it happen. So I think it's just about ownership, like's been said before. Thanks.
Agreed.
All right, so who's gonna formulate that motion? Let me see if I can get some of it back in front of me. And on everything.
Well, the motion is to recommend Central Virginia Transportation Authority adoption of the fall line wayfinding plan as presented is what the requested action is.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we can take a voice vote on this. All in favor of the motion and the second of moving the wayfinding plan out of TAC? Please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Perfect, yay. That's done. The last item under item 8 is the fall line management. Chet?
Yeah, thank you. This is coming out of the fall line work group, and it is now essentially a white paper, a working paper for consideration by the TAC with possible options to think about when we're looking at long-term management. And this was authored by Phil Riggin, who did a lot of research on other regional trail systems and how their management is covered and there's many different categories from foundation nonprofits to authorities to a coalition, conservancy, and then even DOT coverage. So without reading through that, many of you who are on the work group have already seen this multiple times. We just wanted to bring this forward as an information item today for TAC consideration and something that you can file away as we continue to have these conversations about what the best management system is for the fall line. And you know, it seems like every agenda item is related in one way or another. So talking about regional wayfinding, management is going to have an impact on how that's covered in the years ahead. So, Madam Chair, happy to take any questions. This is really, like I said, just an information item for people to have as a resource.
Yeah, and so I wanted to kick this back up to the entire TAC, because having some of the competing entities on the fall line working group meeting, I thought wasn't appropriate, at least where they have the ability to speak and present and to persuade. And so I wanted the TAC members to look at this recommendation, or I'm sorry, this kind of white paper, research paper that Phil put together, and see if we can finish the conversation. I know that we have the Capitol Trail, and then we also have the sports backers. I recommended to Chet that we, at least we talked through it together, that potentially in some form, those two entities provide us with a sample management plan. I think we talked about this somewhat before, a little bit in some of the discussion, but how we might request them to kind of tell us how they would approach the fall line trail. Do we think that that's something that would help us move this along? Like I said, I know the only thing Richmond has in regard to the scoping of the management is how the maintenance happens. Currently, the current format does not take that into account. And I know we have VDOT. Do we still have VDOT on here? We lost them, but VDOT during maybe finance committee or full body said that there was their full intent to maintain the entire fall line trail. I always tell Chet I remember all the lines. I watched them many times. And so with that, currently the city does not have any type of document or agreement to do that. And so in going to Indianapolis and looking at different management structures, there were ways that the management entity raised funds to help cover some of the maintenance costs. And I was particularly interested if any of the two or whomever wanted to participate had any of that knowledge or ability to propose that. So that's where I am on in regard to why I'm not picking one over the other, only because I have that concern. And so with that, again, I would like to pose the idea that Chet develops some form of not as particular as an RFP, but maybe a scope of what we want to ask them, and maybe we review it at our next meeting. At least while I have some power as a chair. That we can review that at our next meeting so that we can potentially push that along even as we continue to move forward. Amy?
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. So I have a couple questions. So, and Phil did a great job, Phil, on compiling all of this, because I know this was a lot. So really good. But in terms of the Capitol Trail Foundation, do we know how that originally was formed? Is that something that just was sort of an ad hoc, hey, we need something, and so everybody just sort of coalesced and we got the Capitol Trail Foundation, who now really has done, I think, a magnificent job in terms of supporting the Capitol Trail and working with VDOT. So that would be one question, I guess, Phil, that I would have. How did that occur? And then number two is, are you thinking, Madam Chair, that the CVTA would go out and try to solicit proposals for managing this, or are you thinking that that CVTA, that staff will come up with sort of a RFP of sorts that the localities would then use, or questions that I'm just trying to understand, if CVTA is sort of out of the business of managing this, then where do we go from here as it relates to CVTA?
Yeah, just to answer that question, then I can go to Sharon. It was my intent that it would be, again, I'm sorry I'm using RFP because I don't want the technical procurement process, but really a scoping of management services. And so I was thinking that Chet, as the CVTA executive director, could draft that for our review to see if it asks the questions that we might get, especially, with Richmond, get what we could get. So it would be a TAC requesting these entities to provide a detailed scoping of their management plan.
Sorry, these entities being Capitol Trail Foundation and Sports Backers, or whomever.
Yes.
Right.
And then we would be able to take a look at those, and because ultimately I think the CVTA is handing it over. So just like we said,
Yeah.
it has a lot of money in it. And I think that we should do our due diligence in how we select and what benefits the localities get in selecting how it's going to get turned over and so forth. I think that they can help us, by explaining some of those things. Because they're the ones that want to do it.
Okay.
Sharon?
Irona, I think those additional information would definitely be helpful. I think we will need to maybe take that information and bring it to higher leadership in our jurisdictions, for further discussion, but I definitely agree the additional information would be helpful in trying to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. So it just briefly sounds like we can get off of this item. We have a plan of action. Chet's gonna just make up a like 1 to 2 page or additional information document that we could request information from potential management services. And then once we review that at the TAC meeting in August, we should, you know, be ready to send out that request for additional information and then get that information back in so that we can then pass it on to our localities. And maybe that be around September or October timeframe to then bring it back once the localities have had a chance to take a look at it. Is that okay with you, Chet?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was going to ask, is it appropriate for you to ask for a couple of volunteers to help me put that together? I think that would be great so that it's not just coming from my head.
Sure. Do we have anyone that wants to volunteer? So we got Richmond, we have Chesterfield. I think
I'll
Amy
help.
raised her hand. Yeah.
I'll help.
Thank you, Amy.
I love the trail. I mean, trust me. It's such a great thing. I know I keep getting on my soapbox about it, but you know, I rode almost 60 miles over this last weekend, and I will tell you that riding on the roads is very dangerous. And, you know, even though we have, you know, nice paved roads and this and that, but these trails are just incredible. So I'll do whatever I can to support the advancement of it in a positive direction.
All right, Chet. So we'll be your little talk through group to help get that before our next TAC meeting. All right, let's move on to the next item. Any additional questions regarding that for Chet? Any of the 3 items? Oh, moving on. So we're moving on to the next item, which is the deallocation. This was kicked back to us from the Finance Committee. And I don't know if everyone has had a chance to take a look at it. I still see a couple of things lacking in regard to, because I see the added part about technical advisory committee and the finance committee providing recommendations. But again, I think some more direction just from my end. But let's talk about this item. Again, this is the deallocation of leveraging funds that are CVTA regional. And so Mr. Parsons, go ahead on with the regional funding deallocation policy.
Yes, thank you. So what we are considering is in relation to I'm trying to get there. This is all coming from the regional prioritization framework. So there is a section in there where there is a reference to potential de-allocation of funds if projects don't perform to the level that is specified. But there is no detail in the framework about how that process would work, or who is responsible, or how you know, time frame, anything about what would actually happen to those particular projects. So I had worked with legal counsel to look at other types of organizations and scenarios where this might happen, and we put together a draft policy for consideration that would essentially be adopted as part of the guidance documents for the CVTA by the full authority. And that's essentially what came to the Finance Committee last month. I'm looking at the draft minutes for the Finance Committee, and there were discussions about multiple things, as the chair said, including addition of specific dates, provisions where additional time may be requested, process for formal notification to localities that a project may be under consideration for deallocation. And then just, I think in general, more clarification on the whole process. So that's why it's back here to the TAC today. And I think we're just, as the chair said, we're kind of looking for input on if there are additional measures that need to be included. And I'm happy to do whatever the TAC is interested in. My focus was mainly on making sure we had answers if there were questions about the framework, and making sure that all those are there. So we're not on a timeline. I don't think any projects are in immediate danger of being subject to deallocation, but having the guidance there for the authority to have as a reference is my ultimate goal.
Do you have any questions for Chet? Ms. Myler?
I wasn't in the last TAC meeting, but my understanding was that there was discussion about allowing for some flexibility for leveraging, like other than smart scale. And, just in case things are running on a different timeline, has that been incorporated somehow into this language yet, or could it be?
I see a little bit of it added,
Okay.
say revenue sharing. I see the language, but I don't see the time frame flexibility. It looks like I see 2 years pretty stagnant, pretty, throughout the document.
Okay.
Oh,
now I'm seeing the revenue share. Sorry. Thank you.
And so with that, and then it has like the when possible, but again, I think where's that written flexibility of that leveraging or the specific dates, or I don't know if that's been added. So I think that and so he said there's not a time frame. Do we want to take a look at this? I mean, is this something that all of our attorneys may want to look at?
That's a good point.
Sharon,
Oh, sorry. I have a question.
Amy.
Sorry, I have one question. So just for clarification, so if you're using for leverage and you're not successful in the first round, but you want to, the project's going to be inflated automatically, right? For inflation, for that additional time. But then the locality has the ability to come back and either request additional funding for the project or allocate other sources of money to that project, which then starts the clock again. That's the part that I'm a little bit fuzzy on in terms of understanding. If that's the case, then can just local money, like the locality says, we're going to put another however many millions onto this project, so that starts the clock again? Or is it just CVTA money that gets, additional CVTA money that gets allocated to a project? That's the question I have for clarification. Was that not?
I mean, yeah,
Probably
Amy,
didn't
can
make
you
sense.
repeat it? I was having a slight.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So my question is about, so you have the money, the CVTA money used to leverage, and we'll just use smart scale, but understanding it could be federal or other sources of, of funding that you might be leveraging. So the first, you apply and you don't get funded for the first round, right? So then you're going for the second round, or you're waiting for the second round, but you come and you ask for additional funding, and then the money is allocated, then I understand that then the clock starts again. So you're really back on round one, right? So potentially the project could continue to be sort of on its first year, of being allocated, of leveraging money for quite some time, right? As long as additional money is being added to the project and the project cost is reflecting that. My question is does that project, can that additional funding, does it just have to be CVTA money, or can it be other sources of money? So like if the locality wants to come in and add additional leveraging, which changes the dollar amount, right? Does that now reset the clock for it being its first attempt at a new level of funding?
It's the CVTA money that we're keeping the timer on.
But I think that all Amy is just saying is that, for example, if she lowers, so there's a change in the request, either increased by $1 or lowered by $1, it starts the clock over.
Correct.
And is that clock started over into perpetuity based on always asking for plus or minus $1?
Right. I mean, because in theory,
Well,
then
But
everybody's
she
just gonna
talked
keep
about
asking.
other funds as well, so.
Yeah, that was my
the
other
Other
thing.
funds
So it's
doesn't have
just
anything to
CVTA.
do with it, it's just the
Mhm.
change in CVTA regional amount.
Right. That
Well,
was
no, and
the
that's
other
what I'm
part of my
saying,
question.
plus or minus $1 of CVTA
Mhm.
money. So I come in, this project and I asked for 27 million, but I found $1 million. And so I'm only asking for 26. Or I need $1 million and I come in that next cycle and ask for 28 million. I go back to the square one. And then
Right.
next year I add another $1 million. That's how we
Right.
used to do RSCP and CMAC. You just, in Richmond at least, we just
Right.
kept on adding up that money until it added up into the complete project cost if it wasn't being eligible for leveraging.
That's exactly my point. Thank you for clarifying my question. Because I mean, at some point, this is what we've run into, right? With TPO money, and we've got 20-year-old projects that just couldn't get funded because for whatever reason. I'm
Any
not
other
saying that we're
funding
not good,
source, any other funding source.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Or there might have been other reasons that the project didn't get funded, right? So, or to construction.
And I just think that this conversation is, I think those are the things, I think that Chet's overarching, this is something that's to be like a policy
Mhm.
level. But Chet, I think a little bit of what I'm seeing is that if it's going to be set the policy, all of what's behind it and those technical impacts is what we have issues with, at least Richmond, in moving it forward without knowing these unknowns. And I think that if it's going to be more detailed and something added, I don't know whether it happens in the document itself, or like what can we include in the policy document that isn't restrictive, or I don't want to say isn't restrictive, but again takes into account some of these things. So just by what do we want to do, TAC, in regard to this? Or do we want to take some time and add what we think in more detail for Chat? Or is it more details are in another document and we have those additional information in addition to this? Chat?
I appreciate the scrutiny that you all are putting onto this. I think it's worthwhile. I think the intent of the possible deallocation in the framework is so that projects don't become stagnant and that the CVTA dollars are continuing to be put into the funds, into the projects that are happening. So I still think that that's important. If we're getting, if the goal is to get the projects constructed, then we're going to get more CVTA dollars on a project and it's going to move forward, or we're not. And I think the detail and the criteria and the timelines and all that kind of stuff, I think you said it, Madam Chair, it may be better to have a second kind of process document or process guide that says, you know, when a project gets to that point, here's all the things that have to happen and here's the time frame. But I think it's also important to have the guidance there, you know, just to know that so that everybody involved, whether it's finance committee or authority members or TAC members, that, you know, we got to watch project A, B, and F, because if they don't get funding in the second cycle for the next round of regional dollars, then they're potentially could be deallocated. I mean, this is looking out, you know, 6 months, a year,
Mhm.
but just so everybody's aware that, you know, these projects are getting closer. And if they don't get additional CVTA dollars assigned, they could hit that trigger that's outlined in the framework.
Right.
And then did we talk about, I know we talked about alerting the localities. I know we have that, but it still looks closer to what was given to the finance committee to me than it has some of the issues that were brought up.
We didn't go back and add a whole lot, because I knew that you had it on the agenda for today. So
Oh, okay.
if
I
there were
thought you had taken a
additional,
stab at it. That's why
we took a little bit, but I knew there were a lot of things that I had missing.
yeah, you started at a good place though with the notes from the finance committee. That's a great place. Barb?
I don't even know what my question is. I guess, you know, the authority has the final say on whether to add more money to a project or not.
Mhm.
You know, it's not a given that a project will just keep getting money and keep getting money. And frankly, the authority has the ability to deallocate funds with or without this policy. You know, it does talk about after being unsuccessful, kind of evaluating where, you know, what happened, you know, and I guess Miles did that for us with Smart Scale last round, kind of took a stab at how much might have gotten it across the finish line. So, you know, I feel like the policy is good. I'm just having trouble understanding the concerns.
Well, thanks, Barb. Any comments on that? I think that I would at least, like I said, I thought we would have a little bit more. I would like to at least take this along with the finance committee meeting and I think insert at least the places where I think those comments are relevant to in this document as far as sections. And definitely, if everybody is willing to do that or whatever input they may have, we can call the vote for it right now. Or we can table it until our next meeting. One for Chet's own admission that he hasn't added a lot of the things from the finance committee. Those were from the authority members themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that at the minimum, those things should be added in.
Mhm.
And, you know, a final version brought before us for approval.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think if you're considering possible changes, like I said, there's no timeline on this. I'd suggest having TAC work on it and put it back on the agenda for the next TAC meeting. So you can have, you know, clear consensus on what the language is going to be, and then we can move it forward from there.
Yeah, okay. So the homework assignment, I guess maybe including you, Chet, is for everybody to make some notes on this. If like Barb says she's okay, you don't have any homework. But anyone that has any comments where they may want to interject it, whether it be, and we won't separate it out when we get back to it in our next conversation. Hopefully we can look at the comments and say, hey, that goes over somewhere else. or it stays here good, and then that way I think we can wrap this up fairly quickly.
Okay.
So again, and again, it's an action item. Is there a motion to defer this to the August agenda?
So Sharon, I make a motion to defer this to the August agenda.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Barb. All right, what do we have? Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, Joe. Opposed? All right, so this one is going to our AUG 2. The new chair is gonna have some work. All right, let's keep this moving because we are way over. Well, 22 minutes over. Let me see. So we got okay, so the allocation plan, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, this is just a reminder. We sent out an email with requests for everyone to update the allocations plan. What I've put in the packet is just hopefully will spark a few of you to get that done. This is I just printed a time and place. I think it was probably last week, whenever the agenda was sent out. Of this is essentially FY24 plan. So it needs to be updated by everybody to make sure that it covers the projects that you intend to fund for this coming fiscal year, using your CVTA dollars. So
Okay.
that's all we're doing. This is just a reminder. There's no action today. I don't have feedback from most of you yet. So if we could just work on getting that between now and the next TAC meeting,
August.
I would appreciate that. I think I put a deadline in the email, but I don't have it in front of me. So we can, if anybody has that, please share it. Otherwise, I can just send out another reminder.
Yeah, and if we could potentially have it a week, maybe a week, well, I guess we're close, but a week before, so it could get posted with the agenda to give.
I think
even
I
more
remember
people.
August 19th, maybe,
Oh, you had it all the way at
or
August
was it
19th?
July? Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. I could look it up again. Sorry.
Probably July, because August, because typically, let me see, I guess we do this. Yeah, this is the time that we do this. So potentially, yeah, having everyone, I know a lot of the stuff has projects on it. With ours, we have it separated in sections, so it should be fairly easy to update. But again, maybe having it a week before the TAC meeting will further push localities that haven't submitted theirs at the TAC meeting to do it. Because you're gonna be like, uh-oh, it's going out and I'm not on there. I know that usually gets my attention.
I just found it. It's July 30th.
Okay, perfect.
I sent the email on, well, when did I send it? Last week before, something like that.
Okay, so July 30th, everyone, let's try to have our allocation plan updated. And what about our quarterly reporting?
Yeah, quarterly reporting, that's actually on the finance committee agenda for Wednesday. If you haven't submitted your fourth quarter reports for FY24, please do that. And then we'll assemble that final FY24 quarterly reporting that'll go along with the certifications. So that's another reminder, get your administrators or board chairs to sign the certifications, please.
And then I know if we could, for the quarterly reports, I think they are, because that's what rolls up into the annual. We may need to discuss at our August 8th meeting just to pull that spreadsheet back up, because I know that some people are reporting maybe for specific fiscal year total dollar amount only. Some people are adding all of their FY21 through FY25 into the totals. So we want to make sure that we're consistent with what we put in there. So again, we will bring that up at our August 8th meeting just to go over the sales. to make sure, because like I said, Richmond puts in a dollar amount and to me, it isn't consistently being shown. And I think it's an easy fix for us to get that aligned. And Chet, we had the question at the meeting, like, hey, why is Richmond's like spiked all the way up here? And it's like, because Richmond is spending money right now, and some places haven't spent money. But again, making sure that is using the correct, that the other localities aren't using an FY 1 year fiscal, and we're using this multiple compilated of all the dollars. Barb? You gotta go, or you're.
No, yeah, I was waving to Austin. Yeah.
Oh, bye, Austin. I didn't see the text.
Can I still talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Chad, it might be good to meet with someone like in the accounting side to find out, to set some firm deadlines on when these reports are due, like the quarterly expenditures. If it's going through June 30th, asking people to turn something in 2 weeks into July is not standard operating procedure for those folks. So reporting that you haven't gotten it from folks to the finance committee makes it seem like they're late, but
Right.
it's
Agreed.
not, typical. And sort of the same with that annual certification. I don't understand this stuff, but a 45-day accrual period, where invoices from the previous fiscal year are showing up and you're posting them to the previous fiscal year. So if you want, I could try to set up a meeting with folks over here who understand all that stuff. And we can try to establish some firm deadlines.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing the deadlines. I totally understand, Barb, and we found this out the first year of the authority. I mean, we don't expect the certifications until the end of September now.
Yep. That's what I was
Because
gonna say.
some people had them immediately, some people, it took 30 to 60 to even 90 days sometimes. And I'm just being a pain in terms of the fourth quarter reporting. I understand that it takes time, so just get it to me as soon as you can. But if we wanted to set deadlines, then that's perfectly fine
Well,
too.
I mean, I guess I just
The bylaws have deadlines.
asking for it on July 1 is just not reasonable, so you may as well wait. I don't know,
But I think we had that
having an
challenge with
expectation of a
GRTC.
reasonable standard operating procedure kind of deadline for this stuff. And I say deadline, but I don't mean like deadline. Just mean, anyway.
All right, so we have that recommendation from Barb and making sure that we don't at least push it to the finance committee, making folks look bad before TAC really has the time to get it from their accounting people. All right, I'm getting back to the agenda. Let's see. All right, so we have any other questions on the allocation plan? Any member comments? Yes, Sharon.
Just a quick one, good news, Fall Line Trail, Park Street ribbon cutting is scheduled for tomorrow, July 9th at 10:30 a.m. At Springfield Park, which is 2000 Park Street, right near Lakeside Avenue by the old Bank of America. But yeah, ribbon cutting for our Fall Line Trail in Henrico, Park Street. We're excited about it. Everybody's welcome. That's it.
Barb?
Just wanted to thank Chet for joining us today. I think you're on vacation. So we really appreciate it. And it was a super long meeting. So that's it. So you can hang up.
Yep, thanks, Chet. Our next meeting is August 12th, 1 o'clock. No hearing, no other things. This meeting's adjourned.